in his beloved, had a Bible in his left hand and a bottle in the other. He said, all
Was doing Sam, right?
is the sunshine in your name. We both sung and laughed and
Yes, just Sam and I.
started to rain. Get along down the road. We got a long, long way to go. Scared to live, scared to die. We ain't perfect, but we try. Get along while we can. Always give love the upper hand. Thank the wall, learn to dance. Call your mom, buy a book, drink a beer, sing a song, make a friend. Can't we all get along? Someone along the billboard, 1-800 get to know me. Wondered what she photoshopped or were her eyes really that lonely? Did she leave her hometown thinking she'd end up in LA? She wrecked down in the desert and get stuck beside the highway. Get along, low down the road. We got a long, long way to go. Scared to live, scared to die. We ain't perfect, but we try. Get along while we can. Always give love the upper hand. Hang the wall, learn to dance. Call your mom, buy a book, drink a beer, sing a song, make a friend. Can't we all get along? Find out when you die, keys to heaven can be bought. Still don't know what love is, but we sure know what it's not. Sometimes you got to get along down the road.
Good morning, good morning. Oh, Samantha, are you in Tampa?
That picture is from Tampa, funnily enough.
Nice. Person behind you.
Who are you?
Oh, hi, I'm Jasmine.
I was going to introduce you, but put you on the spot.
Okay, so we're just starting. There's 30 people in the room, but I want a big audience to introduce Jasmine. So
Yeah. The C2N Megan's Riverview branch.
exactly. So there's a Riverview branch now, guys. So you didn't know this before, but the admin department is living in Riverview. Jessica Decker says hello to all panelists.
Hi, Jessica. Jessica's been to the C2N Megan's Riverview location.
So you guys heard me say I personally bought a house in Riverview, and I bought it for Samantha. And Samantha and Chris and Jasmine, who's the newest member of our team, has replaced Samantha in the listings role, and Samantha's moved into the contracts role. And we're going to talk about all kinds of things today. But I wanted you to meet Jasmine. She'll be the face behind the emails that say, you did this wrong, please do this.
Yeah.
We call
Your
them,
listing is live.
your listing is live. We call them, Sammy, what color is your hair?
We're not talking about it.
It's green.
I'm not going to turn the light back on.
Put that light on again. And
No, we're good. It's changing. I'm over it. We're done. It's
Samantha had a wild hair and colored her hair green. You should,
Before I realized I was moving back to Tampa, that I dyed it. And
well, you
then-
were until March for St. Patrick's Day.
yeah, I guess I could. I'm just ahead of the curve.
It's a quarter life crisis.
It's still ongoing. I'm over 25 now, but
Hmm.
still ongoing.
Usually we can still see it.
Yeah, and I post. They see it on Facebook. They know. It's fine. It's changing. It's fine. I'm over it.
Samantha and Jasmine have been friends for a long time, and Jasmine is in between employment,
Mhm.
and she and filled the listings maintenance role, so she'll be doing all the inputting and all the stuff that Sammy was doing. And Sammy moved in to help her mom, and she's going to do the contract side of the world. So you'll be getting what we called from Danielle days love notes.
And I was trained by Danielle, so I have all of her instincts. So even though she's not with the company, she still has a hand in it because she trained me and told me everything I know.
Christina Whitman, who happens to be your cousin. She's
Yes, I know that.
You should diet blue. I didn't hear the rest of that. Let's let the chat's going on. Good
I've
morning.
always wanted to do that, but even at my age, I know my mom would kill me. I thought my mom would kill me.
I mean, we are so over that.
Yeah, they just kind of get used to it after, the second or third time you do it.
This
More
was
now,
supposed to
you
be
got-
Yeah.
We have no expectation.
You Portuguese?
I'm Puerto Rican.
Puerto Rican. Sorry, Tony.
Daniel, there you go. So Aixa, if you're online, you got another Puerto Rican in the family here. Good. So Jasmine, you've got your own office set up in one of the rooms of the house, and Sam and Chris are sharing an office in a room in the house.
Yep.
And you guys are living and working together.
Yeah.
Sure are.
I made
We
a
like
comment,
each other.
I made a comment the other day that, back in the day when I was a kid, there's a movie called 9 to 5, and Dolly Parton had a song called Working 9 to 5. And now with work at home, it's really like working 6 to 10.
Yeah.
And you guys really, being the millennials that you are, you don't know a normal work life, and you
No.
work. So you really do work 6 to 10. I know you wake up, you check your email, and you do things, and you get a little time to screw around the day, and then you go back and you do things, and you finish dinner and you go look at things and you do things, and you actually work more now than you did before, which is what pretty much all of us are doing now.
It's
Right?
just easy, especially with Dot Loop, and it's just all easy to do.
Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. Even your uncle wrote in and said, "Hi, Sam. So glad to have you."
Hello.
They come check out my pad. Oh, I met my landscaper yesterday. We're gonna meet him on Friday.
Good.
Come on.
Yeah, it helps to have your dad in real estate when you buy a house because he just, sets everything up for you.
It was pretty seamless.
I told my parents, I called my mom one morning and I said, I think we're ready to move back to Tampa. And then I was here in 2 weeks. So, be careful what you ask for. Yeah, Tony Rita just sent the chat. In the chat, he sent the weather for Chicago. It's 9 degrees there.
And it's 75 here.
Yeah, it's very different being back here.
And Tony, that says wind 12 miles per hour. That's like a constant wind. Then the gusts come. We were walking across the bridge, going to the Bean, and all of a sudden, it was 50 miles an hour. It just went boom. It wasn't for long, but it was crazy. So anyway, you're back in Tampa. You're back at work. We love, and you've been working for us the whole time, and nobody really knew or cared where you were.
Nope.
Work
Didn't matter.
You were an hour behind us.
Yeah,
Okay.
It is different working until 5 because in Chicago, I technically got up at 4 because I was working Tampa hours still.
Right.
So like now it's 4 o'clock. I'm like, damn, I still got another hour. But it's fine.
Cool. Well, I made a couple little notes I wanted to jump in on just for fun for a couple things. Jessica, your sister, sent me an email yesterday. There's a new company that's just started, and it's called Uber Showings.
Oh
Yeah.
God.
This is for, and I'm making a joke here, but for those of you agents who don't prospect and look for buyers and sellers, the agents who look for buyers and sellers and find them will hire you for $50 an hour to drive them around and show them houses that they can't buy because there's no houses. It's actually called Uber Showing Homes, and they will hire licensed real estate agents to drive people around. A successful real estate agent will hire an agent, marginalize them to $1 per hour fee, and you can show the houses for them because our value doesn't come in showing houses, right? So that's kind of a warning. If you don't learn how to prospect and generate your own buyers and sellers, you're going to be relegated to the position of driving other buyers, other agents' buyers around at a per dollar per hour charge.
Wow.
Gotta love innovation, right? It's like
And-
probably Shark Tank or something.
Tony Rita wrote in the chat about showing time and Zillow. What are your thoughts on that?
Very interesting. So I am one of the top Zillow brokers in the country. So I knew about this before it was happening. And it's not an issue at all. Joe Gata called me yesterday and said, hey, you're going to hear this announcement in about 2 hours. just want you to know what it is. We bought Showing Time. I said, cool. But I also know, because of my position in Zillow, that 6 months ago, about Zillow started saying, okay, Zillow thinks they're a real estate company. They do. They're really not. They're really an advertising agency, but they think they're a real estate company, and they think the customers they generate are their customers, and they want their customers to have an amazing experience. So they've figured out that when their customers click on Zillow, the serious customers, and say, I like this house, I'd like to see it at 3 o'clock, they want to make that happen for them. So they did it. They put it on the website and they said, what time would you like to see this house? And the customer would say, I'd like to see this house on Saturday at 3. And they'd click it, and then they'd send it to us as a Zillow subscriber. And then we would try to set up an appointment for Saturday at 3 to find out that it couldn't happen. So what they set out to do to make the experience better for the consumer failed, because we, the agents, had to tell the customer, sorry, you can't do it when you want to do it at 3 o'clock. So they started integrating that request with Showing Time, so the customer could see when the house was available, so they could ask an educated question rather than an uneducated question. And that worked really well. So Zillow went and bought Showing Time. And I said, how much did you buy it for? And he says, I can't tell you that yet because it hasn't been released. And I said, was it over $100 million? He said, yes. So some little kid in his basement created Showing Time, and they sold it for over $100 million.
That's insane.
And Zillow, who hasn't turned a profit yet, spent $100 million and bought Showing Time. Right? So this is all the game. So, and so don't get upset about this. I'm gonna say it again. 100 million internet leads a year come through the internet. Realtor.com, Zillow.com, Homes.com, your website, my website, Zap, Central London. 100 million leads. How many home sales are there? Sam?
I have no idea.
About 6 million, which is high. 6 million homes will sell, but there's 100 million leads. So that means 94 million leads are useless? No, because you get worse than that, because of the 6 million home sales, how many come from internet leads? Most of them come from sphere of influence, past client referrals. I would say sphere of influence and past client referrals make up 50 or 60% of all the real estate transactions.
Yeah.
There's open houses and other sources of business. So internet leads are a very small portion, which is why Zillow probably hasn't learned to make a profit yet, because I haven't figured that out. But 500 million, Heather? Holy shit.
Yeah, that's what Tony said too. That's
Wow.
crazy.
No, I said Zillow thinks they're a real estate company. Showing Time acquired by the demon Zillow monster. I would not worry about it. I had this talk with Joe Gaeta, who's my Zillow rep. I've got a personal Zillow rep, and I got a Zillow coach, and I've got all this shit because I spend all that money on Zillow. Ryan Schneider is the president of, chairman and president of Realogy, not Realogy Holdings or Realogy Franchise Group, Realogy, the entire company of Realogy. And he came out swinging and said, Zillow is our enemy. If you're buying Zillow leads, you are feeding the enemy, which is the stupidest thing in the world for him to have made that statement, because Zillow has no interest in being a real estate broker because they make more money than a real estate broker does. So think about it. On a typical agent, on a 70% split, what does the brokerage keep? 30%. What Zillow does now is they generate a lead and they give it to an agent and they take 30% off the top. We get the leftover 70%. We pay our franchise fees and our agents. So Zillow makes more money on a real estate transaction than we do, but they don't have to house you, be liable for you or anything. So it makes no sense for them to be a real estate broker. Now, they did have to become a broker in every state so they can get the IDX, so they can have the feeds they want. But it's just, Zillow is not the enemy. But you know what they say, keep your friends close to your enemies closer. We are in step and know what's going on with them. So I would not worry that. An Inman headline I read, yeah. Inman. I turned off my Inman subscription. I don't believe anything they say. All right, so Samantha, oh, there's one thing. So team huddle. What did I write here? Oh, I wanted to comment on Chris's meeting yesterday. And guys, this is really, I mean, it's been on my to-do list for a long time. And Samantha, you'll appreciate this. The green box theory. I'll spend less than 2 minutes on this. The idea is if you were hit by a bus today, who would know anything about you? What are your passwords to your bank account? What are your insurance policies? What are all that stuff? So go back and watch Chris's class from yesterday. And it was a takeoff of what he did from his class on Tuesday after the Apollo Beach meeting. But it's a great exercise. Randy Green was my Vistage coach, and he gave me this exercise a long time ago. It's called the green box exercise. And it gives you a list of all the things, a letter to your wife and your children, mothers and employees, a list of the 5 most important employees with strengths and weaknesses for your business to run, the list of trusted advisors, deals in process and evaluations of them, off-balance sheet details, organizational chart, list of people to be contacted, copies of power of attorney documents, your will, all that stuff should be in a unique place. And there's more. Your computer and account passwords, your personal financial statement, your mental, Sam, if I died and got hit by a bus today, you would have a long time to figure out where all my shit is.
Yeah.
Right?
I would have no idea where to start.
And that's not fair. It's not responsible. So play that game. That was one of my notes. We talked about Uber showing. I've got a couple things in my inbox before we get to that I wanted to share. I'm just going to go off screen for a second and go to my sales meeting topics, or training topics. Joe Diener sent me a report yesterday. I'm just going to read it to you now. Median home price is up 15%. Okay, guys, let's talk about this. This is not normal. Houses don't go up 15% a year, except for in a couple situations, which we're going to talk about in a minute. Sellers are asking 14% more for their homes than they were in January, and they're receiving 15% more. Wow. Sold properties are up 11% over last January. Homes under contract are up 18% more than last January. New properties for the month of January fell 17% over last year, so properties listings are down. Total properties for sale are down 42% from last year. Active listings down 42%. Expired properties fell 43%. Supply and demand, 43% less properties for sale, and sold properties are up 11%. Average days on market is 33. Month supply of inventory is 0.7 months. That's 0.7 month supply of homes. Means we're out of homes to sell in less than a month. These reports are great to show both buyers and sellers. State the market. Call me if you have any questions. This was another situation, and Jasmine, you as being listings, this is important too. The seller's property disclosure is probably one of the most important documents we have. And an agent sent me a note yesterday, and was kind of offended that the buyer's agent asked for clarification on the seller's disclosure. And I had an opposite reaction. I said, that's a great agent. Because once you buy the home, you buy the home. And as the agent for the buyer, when you should take an active role in reviewing the seller's disclosure statement. So this agent wrote back and said, hey, on paragraph 4G, please explain the plumbing leak experience, when, and the remedy for the leak repair. And also on paragraph 5B through D, explain the roof repair remedy as the form request. Now, this agent was being a little bit, I don't like talking and not seeing myself. So I'm going to switch. That was actually a good agent. Hey, what was the plumbing problem and how did you solve it? I had a plumbing problem in my shower. My shower leaked through the floor and into my garage. And what did I do? I had a new shower pan built, which actually after 7 days is done. But that deserves to be disclosed. It was a material fact, and actually it's improved now than it was before. And what was the problem with the roof, and what's the remedy? Now, in this particular case, the remedy for the roof was a new roof. And they've already lowered the price of the house to accommodate the buyer putting a new roof on after closing. So that's kind of nitpicky and kind of silly, but I just thought it was a good idea. So as a reminder to you guys as agents, read the seller's disclosure statement. And if it doesn't make sense to you, ask for clarification. There's nothing wrong with that. It's kind of your job. Here's another one. And this is, I want the back office to know what the front office is dealing with as well. And this is real stuff. John Evans wrote in and said, I have seen the seller's property disclosure not filled out by the seller, but signed, not much. Guys, hands down, get out a pen and get ready to write. This offer is subject to seller completing a seller's property disclosure no later than February 13th. Make it, it's part of the deal. It's really not, because the contract, when the seller signs the contract, he says, I know of no material facts affecting this property. And that's what the seller signs when he signs the contract. He's saying, I know of nothing. So he's opening himself up for liability by signing the contract saying he knows of nothing. What we do as an agent to protect our seller is we have our seller sign a disclosure statement with some specific questions so they think deeply about what they know and what they don't know. I just sold a lot that we own in Alafire Preserve. It's a beautiful waterfront community. And one of the questions on the vacant land disclosure was, do you have well or septic? And I bought the lot like 16 years ago and had no idea well or septic. So I went on tax records and I looked it up and I found out I'm paying a water and sewer septic non-ad valorem tax on it. And then I called the HOA president and said, so I checked the box, yes, this is well and septic. I mean, water and sewer, county water and sewer, not well and septic. It's a 3/4 acre lot. And so I felt good about that. But I texted the HOA president before I went online and looked, and he wrote me back and said, actually we spoke, which is a better way to communicate in my opinion. And Sammy knows, because I'm probably the only person in the world that phones her on the telephone, but she actually answers her phone. And it turns out, yes, we do have county water and sewer. Where's my driveway? Weird. We do have county water and sewer, but the lift station is at the front of the community. So most people have to put a shit blender in the front yard that grinds it and pushes it to the lift station in the front. So as the seller of the property, should I tell the buyer that? Yeah. Because when they build the house on the lot, they're going to have to put a shit grinder in the front yard to push the stuff to the lift station, because that's what has to happen. So I felt good as a seller disclosing that. And I would gather to say that the seller said, or the buyer said, wow, this guy actually thought about it and is giving me real information. I trust him, right? Which is my ultimate goal. So that was
coming from review. So Chris is now going to be in the listings compliance position, and I've been in that for the last couple of years. So this is one of the things of why, if a listing doesn't have a property disclosure, we won't let the listing go live.
It's not, and because we want to protect our seller. Your seller is making a statement when he signs the contract, I know of nothing that material affects the value, which opens up to a liability for sale, a liability for a lawsuit. Why would we do that if we actually represent our seller and let them put them in that position? Good job. You do. I wrote down after closing issues. What does that mean? Here we go. As is contract with no mention of plumbing issues on the report, see attached. Regarding the current status of the tank, yesterday I recommended they get a plumber to take a look at the septic system to determine if it's the cause. I'll let them weigh in on the matter. Okay, so we sold a house and it's now after closing and the buyer is having plumbing problems. And the buyer goes digging in the yard and finds a septic tank. And this is in the South Tampa, north of Kennedy type of area, which to my knowledge has been converted to city water and sewer. So the septic tank may very well be left over after it's been connected to the public utility system. So it's not uncommon they'd leave the tank in the yard. But now the buyer is all freaked out. And we looked at the seller's property disclosure, and when it said, are you connected to city water or well and septic, guess what was checked? Neither. So now the buyer's closed, they're in a tizzy, having a tizzy fit, and they think the seller has lied to them and the house is on well and septic, but it's a little residential lot. It's probably not well and septic at all. And these are the little things that come out of. So what the agent should have done and what compliance is going to call out is that we should look at the seller's property disclosure and see what they say. I'm going to get up for a second because my door just opened. I don't know who's in my yard. It's very weird.
Talk about the seller property disclosure for a minute. Now that I'm on contract compliance, the thing is that I'll be asking for a seller property disclosure on your contracts with your buyers. And a lot of the times I get the answer of, oh, well, the seller didn't provide one. We're, for our clients, gonna require a property disclosure that just says no disclosure has been provided, with our clients signing it and accepting that, because in 10 years when they come back and say, you know, there's problems, at least you have something to fall back on and say, well, you were aware that you weren't disclosed, the seller's agent, for whatever reason. Sometimes they don't fill it out. Like John said, sometimes it's signed and not filled out. And when it's not your sellers, there's not much you can do about it. But you can still protect your clients, your buyers. And so that's the message behind asking for that from a compliance standpoint.
Yes, and once again, I'm going to say, good answer. The seller is making a statement in the purchase and sale contract that I know nothing that affects material value. So if they do know something and they check and they don't disclose it, they've broken the laws. Johnson versus Davis was a court case in the 80s. That was a precedent-setting case. So Johnson versus Davis was a seller must disclose any known defects that materially affect the value of the property before selling it. And so in the purchase and sale contract, when they sign it, they say they know nothing. So what we're doing is protecting our seller.
What Lauren said, some parts of Polk County and Citrus do not require their clients to fill out the seller property disclosure. And yeah, in that case, putting the no SPD provided doc and having all parties sign, that'll work for our files. So yes, that is acceptable. And then it looks like James Clausen wrote in.
Yeah, with regard to lots, how does the buyer get a feasibility study for building on any lot that they may have interest in? Great question, James, and here's my answer. So the lot I just sold has a 21-day feasibility period. And I happen to, this is a riverfront lot. And the last time we had a hurricane, and I put this on the seller's disclosure statement, the last time a hurricane came through, I think it was Ivan or something, it didn't really affect us, but it caused the river to flood, to crest. And one of my friends has a house, 3 lots down from this lot. And I've got a picture of him standing in his driveway up to water, up to here. And his first floor was all garage. And these are $1 million houses. First floor, him standing in his driveway with water up to here. It flooded his entire basement. So I know about that. And I have to disclose it. Has the property ever flooded? Yes. It's a vacant lot, but it flooded. So, and then I've got another friend who bought a lot next door to me. And when he actually bought it, and after he bought it, he had a contractor do an estimate to build a house. And he found out that the house had to be built on pilings because the land was soft. So they did a perk test on the dirt. And they found out the land wasn't solid enough. So the house had to be built on pilings, or really big footers. And it added about $200,000 to the cost of the foundation. So the answer to your question is you get a contractor and you do a lot of tests. So this particular buyer for this lot I'm talking about has a 21-day feasibility period. So I hope they go through and do I already gave them a survey because I put a survey on the property before I listed it because I knew they were going to get one. They're going to have to get a perk test. They're going to have to do soil samples. They're going to do all kinds of stuff to verify, because once they buy it, what did they buy? It and all the stuff that comes with it. So it's a really big responsibility. Now, if you're buying a lot in a typical little subdivision, where you can see Centex built 27 homes and they're all the same, not much to worry about. But a unique custom place like this, it's not. There's soil samples. There's also phase 1 environmental audits. There's phase 2. If you have a bank, if you're getting a loan, the bank's gonna basically require all these things. That's always a good idea. Jeff like the ship lender.
Color related.
For instance, some parts of Polk County and Citrus do not require their clients to fill out SPDs because they're morons. I have put in the no SPD provided doc and had the party sign. That's okay. Yeah, we'll accept that. Oh, Sam, you already answered this question, but
Yeah.
it's bad agenting, guys. The Florida bar contract says the seller knows of no material facts that affect the value of the property. And when the seller signs it, they're making that affirmation. And that's just, you're not protecting your seller by not having to do that. So Polk County is a little behind the 8 ball there. Cool. All right, what else do I have on my list to get you going? Commission agreement, no show. Oh, I keep getting these questions. They drive me crazy. Okay, so we have a very aggressive, good agent who is banging on doors all the time and finding opportunities where the seller says, hey, we would consider selling our house. And we all have a bounty of buyers that are out there looking for houses to buy. So the temptation is to go show the house. And I have coached this agent numerous times and said, do not show the house unless you have a signed commission agreement. You've been burnt once, twice, 3 times a lady. You just don't do it. And she sent me an email from a seller saying, agent, as we previously discussed, my husband and I are still interviewing. We're in the interviewing and information gathering phase of the home selling process and have not made a decision on an agent to represent our interest. I decline to sign any agreement with your company. So our agent is doing what I said. Get a commission agreement before you show it. She's trying to sell an off-market property, right? Let's talk about this for a second. There's all kinds of noise. It must be my pool guy, but he never backs in. I hear all kinds of noise in the backyard. Guys, a seller should not take an off-market offer. If we're representing them, they should not, right? It should hit the open MLS and get exposed to the competitive bidding environment. What are you laughing about? You're muting or you're talking?
I was trying not to sneeze.
Oh, okay. They should not take an off-market offer. You got to put on the competitive bidding environment and see what happens. But our agent wants to go show that house before it hits the market. Why? To get her buyer the best opportunity. But the seller is smart enough to say, we're not ready yet. So I told our agent, do not show that house. Do not talk about it. Don't tell them its potential. Try to get the listing. Maybe tell the seller, put a stupid high price on it and let's see, run it up the flagpole and see who salutes. That's a sales job. And that's the market we're in now. With a 0.7 month supply, you're gonna do that.
Yeah, Jessica, my sister, she posted something on Instagram the other day, and it was a group chat, and it was 17 people were in this group chat, and the listing agent was telling them like the offer would be decided whenever, and there were 17 people that was going to.
Right.
Like
well,
competitive.
Had 48 showings in 2 days on the market and had 14 offers on our listing.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I had this conversation with 2 or 3 people yesterday. One of them was my doctor, and real estate's hot. I said, yeah, and it's super stressful. And I opened sales meeting up yesterday telling people, hey guys, this is real. You got to start taking care of yourself. The stress level you are under right now is intense. Look at the hot sheets every day. We're not slowing down. I mean, there are no listings. We're getting listings. They're going off the market as soon as we get them, right? And there's plenty of contracts coming through. Look at the hot sheet every day. Plenty. We're not slowing down. But unfortunately, a lot of you are writing offers that aren't getting accepted. And you're dealing with the stress. You're carrying the burden, the weight of the stress of the buyer that didn't get the house they wanted. And then you got to show them another one and do it again and again and again and again. It's taking a toll on you, whether you recognize it or not. So that's what it is. New gen, new gear. What did I write here? Oh, Puma added to the website, begginsagents.com. We've revamped our store and we've added items regularly. If you haven't seen that, it's just kind of cool. I bought a neck gaiter. I'll share my screen with you for a second. I'll share my screen. I think it's kind of cool way of our own shop. So you can find BE3 shirts, men's gear, ladies gear, face masks, Century 21 face masks. I bought some Century 21 face masks, hats, all kinds of cool stuff you can get. And it's just kind of there. If you're going to walk around with a mask on, you might as well brand it. And I figured the neck gaiter. Because I'll tell you, I don't know about you guys, but for me, here's the routine. I get out of the car, I walk to the store, I go, shit, I forgot my mask. I turn around, I go back to the car, I get my mask, and then I walk into the store. Every time. You think I'd learn it by now, but I haven't. Anyway, the last thing I wrote on my list was Zillow.loop. You know Zillow owns .loop, and you know Zillow owns Showing Time now. So it really doesn't matter. You know Realogy owns Century 21, and Realogy owns Coldwell Banker, and Realogy owns Bedrooms and Gardens, and Realogy owns ERA, and Realogy owns Cardis. It's just the way the corporate world works. They just buy shit that they think will add to their business model. So that being said, Sammy, we're going to talk about some .loop stuff, and my handyman just got here. I need to unlock the front door. So let's talk about, you and I had the list yesterday of things we're going to go. So you run for a second. I'll be back in 30 seconds.
Yeah, so if anyone has questions about .loop, anything specific, just write them in the chat and we'll get to them because we only have a few topics. But it's mainly just like stuff like splitting documents out, sorting your filters. So my dad will call me all the time and he'll be like, oh, I'm doing something in .loop, I need your help. And I walk him through it. And he was so proud the other day because he had this document all filled out. He did a lot of changes to it, but to do it, so the problem was at first he couldn't, wow, that light is really something. He had a document, he had like a listing agreement he was trying to change, and he wanted to add text to it. Yeah, he wanted to add text to it, and he couldn't. We're trying to work with our window here. Add a text box to the document. That made it significantly worse. He was trying to add text to his document and he couldn't because it was a .loop document and it already had its own text boxes. So I said, what you can do to get around that is make the changes you want that you can right now, and then download that document and it'll save it as a PDF and you can just re-upload that into the loop. Your strike-throughs will be there, and then you can add a text box because it's a PDF and no longer a .loop document. So he did that and he went through and made all of his changes, and he was really impressed. He sent it to me and my mom and he's like, check out what I did. Because he did it all himself and he placed initial boxes and it was.
I'm going to show them what I did.
Yeah, do it. Because you did a lot to that document.
It was horrible.
But you did it. Tony said, when outside agents share the .loop file, I end up downloading their doc and uploading it to my file, but find their folder on my page. How can I stop or deal with that? So when outside agents, it depends if they're in .loop or not. If they're in .loop, yeah, I'm being an agent. So yeah, if they're in .loop, it comes with, they have to know what they're doing also, because when they submit an offer on your loop, they have the choice of finding your loop and kind of having their own loop view of it. So when they share things, it goes directly into your loop for you already. So you shouldn't have the double of downloading it and uploading it. But that's if they're doing it correctly and know what they're doing as well, which hit or miss. So yeah, I would say if they share you another loop, just to do that, transfer the documents over and archive their loop. You can email me a specific question or like a specific loop and I can take a look at it and see what's going on. They shouldn't be able to see your listing folder. As if they're not on the team and no docs have been shared to them, they won't be able to see your listing folder. It's kind of like a client view. Like if you look at what your client sees of your loop and they've only been shared the listing agreement, the MLS data form, the seller property disclosure, because those are the documents they're signing, their loop view will only show them those. So you'll see the full list because you're on the team and it's your loop. And then whatever documents are shared to them, they'll see. So same thing with the buyer's agent or the listing agent, vice versa, whatever. Whatever documents are shared to them, they'll see in their loop and they'll get your folder, but only the documents in that folder that are shared with them. Right. And it comes up in their loop view and they can manipulate and do what they want. And that's when it comes into like edit in private. That's a big tool to use in that case, because edit in private means that they take the document in their loop view, make their changes, and then they have to save it and share it back to you for it to populate in your loop. So that eliminates the whole transferring it via email and sending it who gets what. So edit in private rights is important when they're both in .loop. Devana, she said, what if you started a loop as a listing and it should have been a contract loop? How can you change the loop to a contract loop without starting the new loop? So this one's a little harder just because it'll involve staff. Only because so you'll start a loop and there'll be required documents in it that you have to touch to be able to submit, or you can't archive them because they're required. So if you do this, what you can do is just start a new folder in the loop that you chose. And just you can populate the docs in there. We have a contract template folder where you can go to add documents, you pull from templates and then choose the contract template, and all of those docs are there, so you won't have to remember what it is that you're trying to pull in, and you can just click to add those documents, and under the address it'll say listing for sale or it'll be a purchase loop. So just change that to be purchase from a listing for sale. And you can do it and then just, shoot a message to admin and say, hey, can you archive the listing folder? I messed up. Or better yet, what you could do is just save this listing loop for a new listing that you'll eventually have and just start a new contract loop. It's up to you. You can archive the loop if you did it incorrectly and then just start a new loop anyways. Because with filters, you can hide all of your archived loops, and filters is something I wanted to talk about. But yeah, so if you started a loop as a listing loop and want it to be a contract loop, all you have to do is add a folder and go and add those contract documents in there and you're set. Because each loop has the same view details tab no matter what. It's just different sections of it are filled in, because for a listing loop, you're not gonna have contract info and vice versa. So there's ways to work around it.
And that's why I wanted you on this call, because you're so good at it.
Well, I'm doing it day in, day out, 8 hours a day for 4 years. Yes, James Clausen, he said, I've gotten emails from .loop with offers for paid marketing materials. Are these already available to us, or are they offered to us only as paid products? If it's a paid product, does anyone use these and can they share their results? So with your .loop Beggins account, you should have access to all paid marketing materials. I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to. Maybe shoot me one of those emails. But we should have access to all of that. I don't know what paid products they really have off the top of my head.
Yeah, James, what you see, because I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I don't know what it would be. You should have a full access .loop account. It could be, a lot of the times the agent.
If you're not using your Beggins account, that could be something totally different.
So a lot of the times agents will come to us and they already had a .loop account. And so we set them up with their own new Beggins.loop account, and the profiles will switch sometimes. So then agents will email me saying, .loop's telling me I have to pay. And I'm like, just switch your profile back. So it could be something like that. But I'm not sure what paid things .loop offers. You should have them all in your Beggins account at least.
Susan said, and I'll add some choice words to this. Multiple times, ignorant agents asked me to send them only PDF files. I added ignorant. That's not a problem. Just go to download.
Yeah.
Check the boxes, hit download. It'll put them in your downloads folder, copy, paste into your email, and you're done.
Yeah, so downloading a .loop, you can even, if you put a check mark next to like multiple documents and click download, it'll make a combined PDF of all of those documents in the order that they're downloaded in.
It'll be called multiple documents.
Yeah, and then you just rename it.
You rename
It is annoying. Yeah, but at least there's an easy way to do it in .loop. And the nice thing is that even with splitting documents, nothing will ever get deleted from your .loop. So if you mess up putting something in there or whatever the case may be, .loop will never delete any documents. They'll always just be an archive. So like, I don't know, if you're ever doing anything, I have agents asking me, yeah, sending full PDF of multiple documents. If you put a check mark next to individual documents, an option will come up to download. So if you want to send your whole contract folder, what you do is just put a check box next to the folder itself, and the option to like download will come up, and it'll download it all into one PDF. So Ashley, how do you get to the archived documents in a folder? Can I share my screen?
Yes.
Actually? Okay, so we're just gonna go into this loop because it's here and ready. If you ever want to see your archived documents, there will be this button right here that says show archived, and you just gotta click it and you scroll. So there's nothing archived in this folder, there's nothing archived in this folder, but there is in this folder. So you'll have to scroll down because depending on which folder has been archived and what's happening in your loop. But these grayed out, well, I guess you can't see my finger pointing at the screen. These documents grayed out have been archived. So if you ever wanted to unarchive something, you just come over to these three dots and choose unarchive, and it'll pull it back into the loop. So if I refresh my screen, now that list of documents at the bottom is gone because they've been archived. So this is going to be an archive folder because it's canceled. So I need to process it still. But yeah, so you just click show archive, and then with the multiple documents, you just click mark and click download up here. It's gonna say it's generating it. And then now you have a document that's your seller property disclosure, condo rider, whatever else I just chose, all in one PDF. And the thing is, if you wanted to split this apart, so let's say an agent gave you this and you're trying to put it in your .loop. I'm going to go to my test loop over here so I don't mess up anyone's loop.
And while she's doing that, so I've got my loop set up for the house we just bought, and I got my homeowners insurance deck page. What did I do with that homeowners insurance deck page?
Put it in your loop.
I put it in my loop. I bought a washer and dryer. I got a receipt from our washer and dryer. What did I do?
Put it in your loop.
I put it in my loop. So what am I using my loop for?
Personal documents.
My personal documents for that house. And what am I thinking about every time I put something in my loop for my personal home?
Your agent.
My agent who set me up with this program. It's cool as shit. So everything's going into my .loop now. And that's what I want you to have conversations with your customers.
Yeah, so I just pulled this split, this document. So it's multiple documents. So what I do when I split a document is I pull up a notepad or I just get a note going on my computer. So I'm gonna say, oops, well, moving around the Zoom meeting. So I would say 1 to 3 is the condo rider. And then we got the seller property disclosure. So it tells you up here what page you're on as you scroll. So 4, 5, 6. So 6 SPD, and then we got 7 is lead paint. So I have 3 documents. And you just go up here to File, Split Document. I'm going to split the document into 3 pieces because I have 3 documents. And then I'm going to use this. So pages 1 to 3 are the condo rider. Pages 4 to 6 are the seller property disclosure. And then it knows that the last page is only 1 because there's only 1 left. So I would go lead paint, SPD, condo rider, and you click split document.
Actually write that down on a piece of paper, but you open up. And...
Yeah, that's what I just use this notepad because it's easier to,
right,
but now you have separate documents. So like when somebody's sending you an offer, a lot of the times they'll send you it as a PDF and you can through dotloop split it out. And so if you only need the seller property disclosure to be touched out of the offer that they've sent you, you don't have to send your client back the whole thing. You can split out seller property disclosure and just say on page 2 of this document, this needs your attention.
Lauren, that's perfect. I upload everything to the Loop, including home inspections and receipts pertaining to the property, and advise the client that this is their electronic filing cabinet for their home forever. Another great service we provide. Excellent.
And one other thing I wanted to talk about is filters. So a lot of the times agents will write to me and they're trying to find an old loop or they're just trying to find an archived loop. And if I go in here and I type in, let's find a listing that went live yesterday. 993 Laurel Valley. So it's going to tell me that this loop, there's no results found. So that scares a lot of agents because they're like, well, where's my loop? I know I have it here.
Good filter.
Because of the way that I have my filter set up, it's not going to show up. And all you have to do is this little button here, search all loops. And then it comes up right away. So if you're ever searching for a loop you know is in dotloop, make sure to click search all loops. And it tells me up here, search filtered loops, because I have my filters set. So my compliance filters and my back office filters are going to look different than yours. But just to show you an example, these are all contracts that are in initial review. So this is a new contract for Maria, for Carlene, for Serena, for Kalani, Elizabeth Smart, she's a PA for this. So from right here, I can see a lot about what I'm about to click into. But so these are all initial review folders, basically. So this is a new listing that's
on Highway 41. That's been on the, guys, this is crazy. Yeah. That property's been for sale for 15 friggin' years and is never sold.
Yeah, well, she's got a contract on it. I'll process it after this meeting.
I've been trying to sell that lot on the river for 15 years and it sold. And we had another piece Carlene just sold on the boulevard that's been for sale for years and now it's sold. Yeah. It's just insane. Get listings, guys.
And so how it works is I'll also get an email when this happens, but like when an agent submits something for initial review, I get an email and then I know that I have to go in there. But if I didn't and I was relying on this, so same thing, if I go to contracts that are in additional review status, so this means that, you know, you're turning in escrow, you're turning in more addendums. These are the only 2 that are going to come up on my queue. So these are the only 2 I need to deal with right now. So this translates to you guys, because if you only want to see your listing loops, or if you only want to see your contract loops, or maybe you only want to see your closed deals, use the loop status filters so you can see every loop of yours that's under contract. I'm going to clear mine. The problem is that I have admin access, so I see every loop ever created by anyone ever. So I need to use my filters because it would be impossible. Like these are deals from 2016 in here. So you guys, as you keep going in dotloop, your pages are going to look similar to this, and it's going to get harder and harder, or it could look like this. There's grid view. So when you get a picture in there, it changes. None of these have pictures, but so this is the listings. These are all new listings that we got at review. So depending on what I want to look at in Dotloop is what I can choose to show me. These are all the contracts that need to be reviewed. So you can save filters. So mine are just set up to show what you guys submit them as. But what you would do is you would just have it as active listings, under contract. Just play around in here and see what you can find out. And you can save them and apply them. So you can just switch between your views really easily. You can see all of your active listings on one screen, and then you can switch to another view and you can have all of your contracts on one screen. And just remember that search all loops button will find your loop no matter what your filters are. So don't get too worried about the filters. But there are different, so in that, let me go back to one that has a lot in there. I just like list view. You can also sort it by different categories. So I have it by closing date, but you could do it by creation date. So if you're looking for your old listings, change it to listings and sort by creation date and you'll see. So this was 7/17/2020. This loop was created 9/2/2020. So this was a list. Yeah, this was a listing loop that is now a contract a couple months later. So there's a lot of stuff in here that you can play with, and you're just gonna have to find what works for you, because what works for one person won't work for another. But there's a lot of settings in here that you can play with on your own. So that is something. And if you have any questions, just feel free to email me. But I'm going to stop sharing. And now I'm back.
I'm going to share mine just for fun.
Yeah, show Jan Stern how to change the title of a folder. I bet you know how to do that.
Oh, I know how to do that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to share my screen. Because this is a listing that I've literally been working on for 25 years. And they made this decision to hire me.
Almost as old as me.
And yeah, and literally, and their attorney started off wanting everything changed. So I had to change this. I had to cross through this. I had to add descriptions in. Broker agrees to. The broker duties were just cross through, add inserts. I couldn't figure out how to do this. It pissed me off. I called Sam. She goes, no, just download that to a PDF and then upload it into your loop, and then you can do the strike throughs and the add text boxes. So, but look at all the text boxes I had to add. I mean, this entire contract had to be butchered. And then in the end, they asked me to make more changes, and I just exploded on them and said, look, this is ridiculous. I'm the real estate broker. This is the way it needs to be done. And I converted the entire, this was going to be an off-market, single listed, no MLS participation agreement with no price. And now I've got a full-on $25 million listing with a 6% commission, 3% to the selling broker. And it took me a week to get it done, but I got it done. And I got 4 sellers on here, so I had a different seller. But I learned a lot on Dotloop, and that's what made me think, you know, if I don't know how to do this stuff, you guys certainly don't. And this took me 4 hours to do, because there's 2 different parcels and they're identical except for the price and the owner's name. So I just took the lazy way out. So the first owner was Sunset Isles Limited. So I crossed that out and just added in a text for the new one, because it's the exact same friggin' agreement.
Yeah.
Right. So that's how complicated it can get. And then the builder, the attorney just kept making changes after changes after changes. It drove me crazy until I finally took control. And then I got Susie to help me, and we just retyped the entire document. So,
Yeah. At that point.
Yeah.
Go back to your loop.
Okay, sorry.
And you can change the title of your folder.
Yes, very simply.
By clicking the 3 dots next to add document, you'll get all of the options. So rename.
Rename.
And then you just click in and rename it. So it is kind of frustrating, because usually with stuff, you can just click on the listing, like the name of the folder itself, and it would let you click in there. Dot loop's a little different, of course. It has to be a little difficult. But yeah, you just go to those 3 dots and rename.
Well, is that going to change the name of the Signet properties up here? Or is that going to change
Nope,
the name?
not at all. It doesn't change anything except the folder name. So if you go to the view details tab, so up top, it says Signet properties and it says listing for sale, select loop status, go to view details. So you'll see here, if you scroll down a little bit, yeah, a little bit, keep going to that property address. So this is where it would change this. There's usually like a loop name section of it and I'm not seeing, but even if you change stuff here, it's not going to change your loop name. Your loop name will change if you click into it and change it. So if you scroll up again, click into Signet properties, that's where you would change your loop name, and this won't have any it'll have nothing to do with your folder names and it won't change anything else. So in the back office, we are putting the property address as the loop name so we can find it when we're searching it, but that's not always how you can. I have personal document loops in here because like when I was in college still, I needed an e-sign. I was doing virtual school and I had to e-sign documents for admissions and all of this stuff. And I just did it in my .loop profile and no one will ever see it. I won't ever have to submit it, but I have a personal signing platform and I'm going to take advantage of it. And you guys are more than welcome to do that too. If you have to sign something for your kid's soccer team, if you have to sign something for school, if you have to sign something for the post office, whatever it is, yeah, you can make your own loop and you have an e-sign platform that you can use.
Here's my personal documents.
Yeah.
Somebody sent me a lease to sign. I just Microsoft print the PDF, upload it to my loop called personal, and put my signature on it.
Yeah, John Evans said a green box loop. Yeah, you definitely could.
There
That
you
would
go.
be a way to use it for sure.
I'd authorize something. I had to sign a doc contract. I had to do a POA. It was just personal docs. I put it in there and I signed. It's fantastic.
So Tony said, recently was creating a listing loop for an expired. Debated using the old listing to populate the info. Decided to just create a new one instead. Any issues other than previous listing data will require verification. Yeah, so if you see that the back office has touched the loop and it says EXP or it says canceled, if it has WD and that T number after it, closed and the T number after it, that means that that loop's done. And if you're ever going to reuse that loop, just start a new one because it's going to be a fresh transaction and it'll be easier for you to start fresh with, you know, putting your own people in there than having to sort through and delete old people and replace people and do all of that stuff. So I always say, if you're going to relist a property that you sold back when, the buyers are not going to be the sellers and there's going to be new buyers. So it's just easier if you start a new loop and start fresh with new information. And so with the listing loop for an expired, it's going to be the same people, but you're going to have different dates. You're going to have different paperwork. So it's up to you how much work you want to do. I was seeing the active listing as an agent. It was going to list it when it was expired. Yeah, I mean, it's up to you how you want to do it, but I would say it's just easier to start a new one than try to work through it. Any issues other than, yeah, Devonta said, can you please send out the green box list?
Yeah, you know what I'll do? I'll take a picture with my Adobe Scan app on my phone, turn it into a PDF, send it to myself, and it out. I'd be glad to do that.
Yeah, there you go. And then, yeah, Tony said he has a training loop for personal stuff, and that's perfect. Like, if you ever want to work on, you know, setting up an offer, you're a newer agent and you just want to play with the docs and get used to them, set up a loop for your address and fill it in and see how it is, what it takes. And, you know, you can share documents, you can add yourself in as your personal email in as a seller or buyer and share documents to yourself and see what they look like to your clients. That's what we recommend to all new agents starting. Yeah, iPhone Notes converts photos of docs to PDF, and .loop also, the app has a function where you can turn a document into a PDF straight from the app. I won't get too technical on that, but you can take a picture of a document with the .loop app and it will turn it into a PDF.
Crazy.
Lauren said in-house deals. Let's find her question.
Oh, that's a good question. Did we answer all the questions you and I set out to answer last night?
Yeah, I think so. Splitting documents, the filters, downloading and adding text boxes. Mom wanted to talk about PACs, but I see that she put something in here.
I'll call it out because I meant to read that out too.
I want to go to Lauren's question.
Review PAC, or we're not going to see it.
Yeah, so with PACs, you're going to start a new folder in your loop and just call it PAC, and you're going to submit it to the paid at closing option in .loop. It's not going to go to contracts. It's not going to go to listings. It's going to go to paid at closing, and then Jessica Decker has her own workflow set up. So just like I was going between my filters, she has one of those just for paid at closings. So there's workflows in place, and if you agents submit them in their contract folder all the time, and we readjust it for them and sort it out, but it just delays the process a little bit because somebody else has to touch it before it then makes its way to the right people. So that is something to think about. But the main thing Mom wanted to say about PACs, I think, is that you don't have to wait on us to tell you guys if your folder is good to go, or if your PAC will be approved, because if your loop is returned, if your folder has returned next to the contract folder, your PAC is not going to be approved. If your listing folder has a document returned, you can tell in .loop by looking at your list what's approved and what's not. And if you see all approved, your PAC will be good to go. If not, then work on the document that says it's returned and then submit your PAC. Because what happens is agents will have returned files, they'll submit their PAC, and then Jessica Decker has to come in and say, well, it looks like your folder's returned. And then that just further delays the process too. But Lauren said, when we have an in-house transaction, are we to give each other the edit and private access to avoid confusion with who signed what? Yeah, even when it's not in-house, use the edit and private. But it doesn't really differ from being in-house or not, because each loop is separate in the sense of, if you have if Lauren has a listing, and let's say Bob Dean, I don't know why that would be, he's in the beaches, but if he is the buyer's agent, he's going to have his own loop, and we're going to call it the address, and we're going to put buy side in the listing loop name, so we know which side is what, and he'll have his own sort of documents and you'll have your own set of documents, just like it was a co-broke. So in-house, it doesn't really matter, but edit and private is always a good idea to share, regardless. I hope that makes sense. And then, yeah, you could have your PA set it up too. Elizabeth and Christy, they're, whatever you need from them, just make sure you communicate. Jessica Decker said, if you submitted a PAC and then you need to add an addendum, add it to the contract folder and not the PAC folder, because contracts is the one who reviews the paperwork, since it's in the contract folder. So that goes, yeah, vice versa. Not a separate loop for the PAC. It's going to be a separate folder in the same loop. And that's just because it gets submitted to a different person. So yeah, separate folder with all of your documents for your single transaction will be in one loop. So if you get a contract on your listing, you're going to add a new folder in your existing listing loop and submit that to contract. So you won't ever need a separate loop when you get an offer on your contract or offer on your listing. And agents do that from time to time. And if you goof up, it's fine. We got you. We'll fix it. And we'll, combine them into one again. But yeah, separate folder. Yeah, well, Tampa now, not Chicago anymore. All right, well, yeah, we're over the time. I rushed through that at the end.
I just saw Winston in the background.
Yeah, we have a dog now. Our C21 Beggins Riverview mascot. Winston, come say hi. Hi, Winston, you're on camera.
Hi, Winston. All right, Sammy, this is good. I think we had a lot of interaction, a lot of agents engaged. That was very, very good information.
Yeah.
All right, guys, happy Thursday. Tune in for Joe Diener and I tomorrow as we go through some contract stuff, because it's tricky out there. We're gonna massage the efficiency of our offer creation because it's tough out there. All righty. Happy Thursday. Thanks, Sam.
Adios.